Good afternoon. Captain Justin DeLeon here, and today we're going to be talking about the troop leading procedures, also known as the TLPs. We're going to be doing this at the platoon level, but it's also applicable at the company level. The references that we'll be using for today are first ATP 3-21.8, Infantry Platoon and Squad, and also the Ranger Handbook 2017, TC 3-21.76. Okay, so today I want to talk about the TLPs. I'm going to do it a little bit differently though. I'm not just going to talk about these specifically, or the way I'm going to teach it is how would I, Captain DeLeon, if I was in a platoon leader's position in the field with realistic situation, how would I plan it out? And I'm going to plan it a little bit differently than the TLPs kind of show and demonstrate. But I want you to see how I would do it, and I think it'll make sense. There's a couple of these that I do out of order, or I do them simultaneously, which I think is purposely, would think is acceptable. But I'll show you how I do it. So first of all, let's go over the TLPs real fast. First, we receive the mission, we issue our Warno, we make a tentative plan, initiate movement, we recon the objective, we complete the plan, we issue our order, and then eventually we supervise and refine, as that leader on the ground. Okay, so I'm going to talk through though how I would do it if I was the PL on the ground. So the first step is not going to be any different. The first step is obviously receive the mission. Again, this is the TLPs. So one, I'm going to receive the mission. And this sounds like a very, very simple step, but there's actually a lot to it. And this how you receive it and how you pertain the information that's provided to you is going to have a large effect on your operation. All right. So what I do when I go to receive the information is me, the PL, I bring my RTO with me. All right. So the people that I have going with this is the PL/the RTO. All right. And what I do is, especially if I want to make sure I'm getting a good understanding of the mission, I remove myself from the platoon, meaning I leave my platoon sergeant in charge. I leave him in charge of the platoon, all right, and I remove myself from that. I probably don't go outside of my security, but I go to a spot within the patrol base or wherever we're planning that no one can really find me. So I basically kind of try and hide, make sure that no one's coming to me for information, for guidance, for anything like that. Right now, while I'm receiving my mission, all of that should run through the platoon sergeant so I can stay completely focused on what I need to, and that's receiving this mission and receiving it properly. Okay. A lot of times when we're receiving a mission and we're about to go execute something, we're on a very, very tight timeline. Whether you're in Ranger School, you're in Cadet Command Advanced Camp, you're in some type of school where you're running operations, you're going to have a very short amount of time. Tight time constraints, right? So we have to try and find ways to hastily work through this operations order process. And it's likely that we're not going to be able to write everything down, but we need to be able to brief it properly so that our platoon can eventually have understanding and accomplish our intent on the battlefield. Okay, so one of the first things I do is I always have my op order shell. I have a shell created and I have it ready. And in fact, I have an op order shell created and ready for every different type of mission because I want to put as much detail before the operation into these op order shells. So let's say we're doing an ambush. I'll flip to my ambush shell and I'll be prepared to copy. So while this is being briefed to me, what I, the PL, am doing is I am writing down information in my shell, okay? I am writing as much information in there specifically so it's almost ready to brief on turnkey. So obviously, if I'm a platoon leader, I'm receiving a company level operations order, okay? So there's certain things that he's gonna say to me that I can write in right away. Probably the AO, probably the AO isn't changing, okay? When the company commander briefs his mission statement to me, where am I going to write that? I'm going to write that word for word in higher unit mission, that part of the situation paragraph, okay? When he's briefing me the tasks of subordinate units and he's saying, hey, first platoon, you're doing this. Second platoon, you're doing this. Let's say I'm third platoon. When he says third platoon, you're doing this, he's basically going to provide me my mission statement for me. So I'm ready to write that immediately into the mission statement in my op order shell. Everything I can, I'm filling into my shell already so I don't have to do that later. Every single second saved is a second that you can use towards something later on in the operation and be more effective, okay? Your RTO, on the other hand, he or she is writing everything down. They are just scribbling on a blank piece of paper as much information as possible. They're getting down every grid, every single nuance, everything that the commander says. Okay, I want them to just gather information. I'm not as worried that they're comprehending everything, just want all the info, all right? And that's, of course, so I can go back if I miss something, he's got it on his notepad somewhere, okay? The moment I'm done receiving this mission, I confirm specifics with my RTO, meaning specifically grids. All right, I want to ensure that I wrote down this stuff correctly. So I'm going to go over the grids or anything very special that's about this order or specific or unique to this order that I need to remember. I'm going to make sure, talk to my RTO, confirm that we have consensus, that it was read properly, and so I'm good to go. If we don't and we find a discrepancy, hey, that's an opportunity for me to call my commander and ask for some clarification on what the right grid numbers are, whatever it is. Okay? So again, receiving the mission is a deliberate task. It's a deliberate duty. Do it correctly. Don't just half-ass it and use a piece of paper and just write stuff down. Have your shell out, fill it out as much as possible to expedite the planning process. Okay, number 2. I'm going to check these off as we go. So we've done receive the mission. Number 2, a lot of times what people do, and what I want to get across here is, well, a lot of times what people do is they say, hey, the next step is issue Warno, and they just jump in and try and kind of issue a Warno real quick. Well, there needs to be some thought before you issue your Warno. Yes, you want to issue Warno very, very quickly after you've received your mission to get your platoon moving and doing stuff and preparing for the operation. However, you need to put a little bit of thought into it first, okay? So the first thing that I do is I actually do a quick map recon. So once I've received my mission, I do a quick map recon. So that's actually kind of, taking care of this step of the TLPs right here. Okay. If I have the ability to do further reconnaissance later on, I will. But right now, at the very least, I need to do my map recon. And what I'm looking for, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plot my SP point or my current location. All right. I'm also going to plot my objective location. All right. I'm going to look at routes. And I'm going to look at major terrain. This does not take very long. Think about this. To plot 2 points, to look at some tentative routes, and to look at the major terrain features, I don't need more than 5 minutes. Okay, I'm not wasting a ton of time here, but I am taking a little bit of time to gain understanding and gain some situational awareness of where I'm going and what the objective is going to look like. All right, specifically, again, I want to plot this. I want to plot these, and really all I'm doing is, let's say, here's my SP point, here's my objective. Let's say here's my map. I'm looking, hey, there's a mountain here. Okay, there's an LDA that runs this way, and I can either go south of this mountain or I can kind of go north of this mountain. Either way, I'm going to cross the LDA. And now I have some planning guidance. Now I can visualize it a little bit, and I realize, hey, both of these movements are about 800 meters long. So I can visualize the battlefield better by saying, hey, this is all, I'm going to be moving through dense terrain. I'm going to cross an LDA for sure on the way to this objective. All right, hey, I looked at some routes and some major terrain features on the way. Either going north or south. Also, I can visualize on the battlefield now where my SP location is and my objective location is, and I have a general idea of how far I have to move. So I can kind of work into planning my timeline now. Those are things that you need to do in a quick map recon before you rush into that Warno. It's going to help you. It's going to help you set your priorities straight. Okay, the next step that I do is I still don't quite issue my Warno, because a very, very important part of your Warno, correction, needs to be your timeline. So I'm going to generate my timeline for the operation. This includes my execution timeline during the operation, but it also includes my planning timeline before I SP. All right. The biggest thing that I need to make sure I do here is that I backwards plan. Typically, when you're in operation, they are going to give you a hit time, an end time, and you have to plan backwards from that time to make sure you meet that mission. Okay. So, for instance, let's say we're doing an ambush. and the time that they say is, hey, you need to be, your ambush needs to be set and established no later than 1600. Well, now I know where I need to move back from. A lot of times, and typically, you're not going to get an SP time. Hey, you must SP at this time. It's not about that. You're the PL. You can manage your time. Hey, be there and have the ambush set at 1600. So what we'll do now is we'll start to create our timeline. So we know that the ambush must be set at 1600. Well, now I can work back from this time and see what I need to do. So that means, hey, I need to leave my ORP at 1540 to set it in. Now, whether you think that's enough time or not is irrelevant. Let's not worry about that. But this is what I need to do. I need to plan all the way back. So that means my leader's recon is complete by 1525. And let's say I want to take, let's say right now, for instance, the time is 1200. I've got 4 hours for this operation. All right, let's say I want my leader's recon to be at least 50 minutes. So leader's recon begins at 1435. All right, I move back from here. So I'm going to move all the way back to SP. And I realize, hey, I need a SP no later than 1330. Okay, so that means I need to brief my op board maybe at 1250. So op board brief at 1250, and go from there. Maybe rehearsals are in here at 12, or at 13:15. The point is now I realize, hey, I'm briefing at 12:50, so I know I have 50 minutes to plan this. All right, and that sounds crazy, but if you utilize your platoon, you utilize the team to plan together, it's actually very doable. All right. So again, we make our timeline, we backwards plan it to make sure we're going to meet it appropriately, and make sure we're going to give ourselves enough time to conduct some of these key moments within the mission. The biggest one is that leader's recon. You've got to allot enough time for your leader's recon. That oftentimes is like the difference between success and failure in these operations. Okay, once we have gathered our timeline, now is when I'm ready to issue my Warno. Okay, this is when I'm issuing my Warno. And I've kind of started with this map recon and this timeline. I've basically made a tentative plan. So I'm check marking that as well. I'm really making my tentative plan here, okay? And then I'm going to issue that Warno of what that looks like. Okay, so there's some key things that need to be in your Warno. First of all, I'm going to say, in the Ranger Handbook, it gives you a good Warno format. It also gives you a good format in 321.8, Infantry Platoon Squad. There are defined ones, all right? However, sometimes you don't have the time to push all that information out. Sometimes you only have a little bit of time. Here's what I would say minimum needs to be in your Warno. All right, minimum, you got to have a piece of the situation. And specifically within the situation paragraph, things that you need to hit on is you need to hit on your AO, any major terrain that's going to affect you / weather, and you need to talk about the enemy. You need to talk about those 4 things that are going to affect your operation. And at this point in the Warno, you don't need to go super into depth, but you need to give them a piece of it. So all you need to say is, hey, for terrain features, hey, our AO, we're going to be in the X-ray Golf 1, 2, 3, 4 grid square. Major terrain features, just be cognizant of the fact that through this operation, we're going to be walking through dense vegetation, basically a forest at all times. There's one hilltop in the center of our AO, and that serves as key terrain. And just of note, no matter which route we take, whether we do choose to go south or north of that hilltop, we are going to have to cross one LDA. Boom, I covered some terrain. And now they have a picture of what the environment looks like. Weather, it's sunny today, see no issues, good visibility for us, good visibility for the enemy, nothing major there. Boom. Enemy, hey, we're expecting, once we get to the road to set in our objective, set in our ambush, we're expecting a 6 to 9 man team with AK-47s and RPGs, mostly conducting resupply operations. I'll give further detail in the op order. Boom, they have an understanding now of what they're preparing for mentally, okay? Quick situation paragraph, all right, of what that looks like. okay? All right, next what we want to talk about is the mission statement. All right, so I want to go from here and I want to go directly into the mission. This is easy. It was already described to me when I was briefed the company op order. So I'm going to brief the mission, 5 W's, who, what, where, when, and why. Already done. I'm then going to brief a brief concept of the operation. And really what I'm going to do here is I'm going to brief my phases of the operation. And real fast, it's a summary, right? That's just a summary. Concept of the operation. Phase 1 is ongoing, it's planning. It's going to end when we SP. Once we SP, we're going to be moving either north or south of this mountain to an ORP, either around here. All right, from there, we're going to be setting in on this road. The tentative grids where I'm looking to set in is this grid and this grid. Once we're done, then we'll move back to the patrol base, and we potentially will have follow-on operations, okay? I'm thinking the patrol base is going to be in this location, in this general area. Okay, give them a brief concept. Nothing crazy, nothing in depth, just so they have an idea. All right, that's it. Okay, and then you need to brief the timeline. This is one of the most important parts. We need to brief the timeline so everyone is understanding, okay, when and where they need to be. All right? And specifically on that, they need to know like when the op order is, when rehearsals need to be done, when SP is, so they have understanding. All right, and last, I'm going to put in here as well is any tasks that you want to be given, that you want to give out, tasks that you want to provide. So when I say tasks, things that you want people to be working on. I want Assault 1, I want you to be rehearsing EPW search. All right. Hey, Assault 2, I want you to be working on aid and litter. Security Squad, I want you to supply me with one team to begin working on my terrain model. Giving out all those tasks, and we're going to talk about some of those here in a second. But those are key that you want to put out in that area of the op order. Okay. Again, if you have a Warno that includes these, it's going to give out that information that your platoon needs to start necessary movement. Okay. So once the Warno finishes, now we're initiating movement, and that's starting. And now we go on to completing the plan and start working that process. Okay. So the next step that I do is I start getting people moving. All right. Again, I gave these tasks out in the Warno, but this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to number them, but really a lot of these are happening simultaneously. And I'll kind of point out here in a second. So first of all, is I'm going to assign a terrain model team and they begin building. I'm going to give some guidance out to our terrain model team, and they're going to start creating that terrain model and start getting ready for my brief, for my op-order brief, which is in what, 50 minutes, it sounds like. Okay? Again, you as the PL, this is your time to delegate duties and responsibilities. You can't do it all. You've got to have your platoon help you, and they've got to work for you. Okay? That's a very important part here. So, terrain model team. Typically, you'll see that you'll have guys that are more artistic, guys or girls that are more artistic and can do this better. So sometimes your terrain model team will kind of just naturally happen. But if it hasn't, Captain De Leon, I typically assign this to my security squad. So I pull in my security squad leader and say, hey, provide me 4 man and 1 team leader to go and make me my terrain model. Execute. Okay? And they start doing that. All right? Now they're doing it. I'm going to spot check every once in a while to make sure they're meeting my intent, but I'm not the one doing it because I don't have time. I'm working on other stuff. Okay. Next, my alpha team leader for my security squad, or my lead squad, which it's by the Ranger Handbook Doctrine, it is supposed to be your security squad, but I've also seen your Assault 1, people leading with their Assault 1. Anyways, that alpha team leader, your point man for the whole platoon, he's going and planning the routes. All right, so he's planning your routes. So again, like what I'll do is I'll take the map out, and I kind of showed you the route my route thought here. I'll do that to him. I'll say, hey, there's this hilltop. We can move south of it. We can move north of it. What I want you to do is basically build the routes moving south, build the routes moving north, call, whatever one you assess is the best, call it the primary, the other one call it the alternate, and I'll confirm, I'll validate that makes sense. Okay? But the point is don't plan your own routes. Yeah, you can have some influence on which one you want your primary and alternate, but let the alpha team leader plan it. He's the one that's actually going to be leading your platoon. The worst thing you can do as the PL is plan the whole route yourself, plan all the legs, plan the azimuths and the pace counts, and then hand it to your point man 10 minutes before SP. And now he's got to try and figure it out and lead the platoon there. Okay. Obviously, you need to be cognizant of it. You need to know it as well because the navigation of the platoon is ultimately your responsibility as the PL. But delegate that to your alpha team leader, which means your alpha team leader better be squared away. Can't just be some random dude. All right. Make sure he's just one of the top team leaders in the platoon. Okay. Additionally, what's going on here is your platoon sergeant and your medic are planning sustainment. They're planning paragraph 4. Your platoon sergeant is going to be the guy focused on logistics, obviously, and your medic is focused on the medical side. So PSG, logistics, medic, obviously medical. Okay? Now, the platoon sergeant has lots of duties going on. This obviously isn't going to take him a full hour to do. The platoon sergeant is the enforcer, right? He is the one ensuring that throughout the operation, priorities of work are going on. During the planning phase, priorities of work are going on. People are working on weapons maintenance. They're finishing chow. They're ensuring that they're camoing up. They're ensuring they're getting ready for this operation. Hey, the weapons squad, are they doing their rehearsals? Are they doing their crew drill rehearsals? Good. Sol 1, hey, have you guys done your EPW stuff yet? The PL assigned you to do EPW rehearsals. We'll get on it, okay? He's the enforcer rolling around and making that happen, all right? Obviously, you could talk to E7s and E8s. They're probably going to give you more wisdom than me on platoon sergeant duties, but really they're enforcing all that throughout the platoon and making sure squad leaders are doing their jobs, okay? Additionally, though, he is planning the logistics, and he wants to know the logistical picture for your operation. Specifically, he's going to give out requirements, but he's also going to give out what the current status looks like. Okay, so when he's in sustainment, when we're looking at those classes of supply, he's looking at, okay, how much ammo do we have per 240 weapon system? Hey, this 240 right now has 300 rounds. This 240 has 800 rounds. Okay, Roger. Hey, weapon squad leader, cross level, so we got an equal number of rounds with each gun, so we can be more effective. Okay, 249s. Hey, average 249s round count right now is 400 rounds. Roger. M4, hey, average Riyadh is 2 mags. What you really don't want to say is you don't want to say the average. You want to say, hey, what is the lowest member, the person with the least amount of ammo, what do they have? Hey, the lowest person has 2 mags. Hey, sir, everyone in this platoon has at least 2 mags. You want to give it that low number so you know when you need that next resupply, okay? Again, obviously, he's also talking about maintenance. He's talking about resupply and throughout the operation. Okay, again, I covered more of that in my actual sustainment op order video that I made earlier. Okay, and then the medic, he is planning that whole medical piece. So he's planning where the HLZs are, the CCPs, the AXPs. He's planning that picture and what it looks like. The key thing that these guys need to do is they need to make sure that the sustainment picture is on the terrain model. All right? So again, these guys up here, they're building the terrain model, but they're kind of building the shell of a terrain model. They're building what it looks like. They're building in the terrain, all right, and then they're going in and building routes, SP point, objective, some of the basic stuff. Everyone else needs to put in the specifics, okay? 8, all right, RTO is planning command and signal. All right, that's obviously his baby, all right, because he's got that information. He knows the call signs, the frequencies, the challenge and passwords, and he can talk the command stuff too, the mission command part, because he's managing the communication for mission from the mission commanders all the way down to the lowest level. So RTO should plan that. And just so you know, if you have the time, this sustainment and command signal, it also can be briefed in the Warno, and that can save time, when you're doing your operation. All right. Okay, 9, the last thing that's going on is that PL is doing his planning. So while he gets everyone working on their piece of the plan, now he's doing his planning. So you can see though, he's delegated a ton out. So really, the planning that he's doing isn't that much. Really, he's planning elements of the situation paragraph, and he's planning elements of the execution paragraph. And that's really it, okay? So he's just going more into the depth here, talking about terrain, talking about weather, talking about enemy, and friendly. And a lot of this was already maybe discussed in your Warno, but he's going to do a little bit better analysis. Okay, so he does have to work on these. In the execution paragraph, all right, really what he's got left is that commander's intent, key tasks, his end state, okay? He's got his scheme maneuver and / concept of the operations, all right? And then he's got really fires, his tasks to subordinates, and then he's got his coordinate instructions. And there you have like your PIR, your timeline, all that stuff. But the point is again, I want to emphasize that preparation into this order is going to make or break you. Okay? For an ambush, overall, are your commander's intent, key task, and end state really going to change? Typically, they're going to be very, very similar. So if you have a specific op-ord shell solely for ambush, these can already be written into it. And yeah, if you need to, you can make a quick small change, but the key tasks likely aren't going to change. All right? The scheme of maneuver is never going to change. There might be some specifics with the terrain you're in, but you should know how to do an ambush. If you are in this point still where you have to write down every single step of the operation on paper to brief it, you're wrong. Okay? Take it upon yourself as a leader and study the Ranger Handbook and know the steps and the scheme maneuver of an ambush. When you're briefing the ambush, you should be briefing off that terrain model. You should not be reading your notes. You should know this mission like the back of your hand because it's your profession and it's your duty to do so. All right? If you want to perform well, at Ranger School, if you want to perform well at U.S. Army Cadet Command Advanced Camp, you will memorize the scheme of maneuver, the tasks within the operation itself. I'm talking from SP to, the actual ambush itself and movement back to the patrol base. You should be able to recite that. All right? That's how you perform at the highest standard. And as leaders, we all want to excel and perform at the highest standard. Okay? Fires, I'm going to have to plan that. My tasks to subordinate units. Again, are tasks to subordinate units ever going to really change for an ambush? They shouldn't. On an ambush, my security squad is always going to isolate the objective in order to deny enemy freedom of maneuver on and off the objective. Every time. That's never going to change. That's always their task. They're always going to supply me a compass man. They're always going to supply me a pace man. They're always going to supply me a point man. They're always going to supply me a terrain model team because that's the way I do it. Okay? It will never change. It's already done. All right? So I don't even have to really write that. It's already written. Coordinate instructions, I'm going to have to recite my PIR, which I got basically from the company level op order. I already made my timeline. All right? And I might talk about reports and uniform a little bit, but there's not much there. If you think about it, really, you just kind of have to organize your concept of operation and kind of like make sure your scheme maneuver works with the terrain that you're in, and then write up your situation paragraph. All right? And just make sure that these three are good as well, your intent, your task, and your end state. I'm telling you, if you only have 45 minutes to train or to plan for an event or for an operation, and you get everyone else working for you, you don't actually have that much to do. 4 and 5 are taken care of. All right? So you're really, and paragraph 2 was written way long ago. It was basically written as you were copying down the order in receipt of mission. So there's not that much to plan out. Don't get overwhelmed with it. All right? And prepare. Have as much prepared before the operation as humanly possible. It'll help and it'll pay dividends in the end. Okay. Again, the last thing I want to mention is all these steps, really 5 through 9, they're all happening simultaneously. They're all happening together. Okay? And that's not like in generic order. The last thing I'm doing, once my planning is complete and once I'm ready to brief, I'm going to brief my order. I'm going to brief the operations order, okay? And I'm going to brief it to my platoon off the terrain model, all right? If I'm blessed and fortunate enough to get some security, some additional security to my platoon area I'll bring the whole platoon in and brief the platoon as a whole. All right. I can always ask and see if there's someone else in the area to provide me security. If not, then I'm obviously going to bring my squad leaders in, brief them, and they're going to have to disseminate from there. And there's some techniques on that, but either way is right. Just make sure you're briefing off the terrain model itself. Use the visual the best you can to brief that. Okay. Once we're done with this, we're going to do either a confirmation brief or a back brief. Oops. All right. So I'm going to make sure I do this to ensure that I am confident my subordinates have received this mission and have a shared understanding. So specifically, what I don't want to do, what we see all the time is, hey, random soldier, what's the mission statement? That doesn't help me know that my security squad knows their role in the operation. Okay, the point here is now go talk to your Assault 1 squad there and say, hey, Assault 1, give me your overall task and purpose during movement and give me your overall task and purpose on the objective. Security squad, give me the same. All right, everyone do that, and talk through, hey, if we come into contact at this point, what's our contingency? Make sure that everyone just understands their roles and responsibilities during movement and action on the objective, and how those roles and responsibilities collectively meet into your platoon leader's intent, to your level of intent. Okay? Ensure that happens. We are then going to have rehearsals. All right, which there's a lot of different ways to do rehearsals effectively. Okay? Obviously, if you don't have security around you, your platoon just can't get up and do a complete walkthrough. Now, we already tasked some elements to do rehearsals. The weapon squad was probably doing crew drills. We're doing aid and lit or EPW rehearsals. This rehearsal pertains to the platoon as a whole, the movement and the actual actions on the objective of your platoon. A great way, there's tons of ways to do it. You can do rehearsals over the radio where everyone talks their piece. A great way to do it is to do it on the terrain model itself, where squad leaders, the PL and the platoon sergeant, are actually moving icons and talking their part through it. So for instance, the PL says, okay, we just moved to the ORP and we're establishing the ORP. Security squad, talk me through your steps. And security squad, if we're doing a hasty ORP, is like, all right, at this time, we'll consolidate to the center and begin prepping men, weapons, and equipment on the battlefield. I'm going to start moving radios here. I'm going to start applying face paint, ensuring that we're blending into our environment. Okay, good. Assault 1, what are your actions at the ORP? Well, we're going to move in from the 6 and occupy on the left-hand side of the ORP. From there, we're going to begin doing blah, blah, blah. Okay? Once we're done with the ORP, okay, at this time, leaders recon, security squad leader, since you're the leader of that, or whatever, whoever it is, talk me through what we're going here. Rehearse it and let them move icons all the way through the actions on. And what it'll do is, you guys know rehearsals are important, but what it does is it gets you guys synced up, but also what rehearsals do as well is they bring out holes in the plan. There's always holes in every plan. No one makes a perfect plan the first time, and that's okay. Okay, but doing rehearsals, someone will be like, oh wait, I thought I was going there. You're going there too? No, we need to clarify this. There's a discrepancy here. It happens all the time, and it's a great way to make your plan even better by rehearsing and for people to identify that stuff. Okay, and lastly, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to SP on our mission. All right, and that's how we move. So again, the things I didn't talk about here, we obviously completed the plan, we issued the op order, and then while these rehearsals are going on, the confirmation brief is going on, their platoon is getting ready on the outside. That's where the PL and the platoon sergeant, they're supervising and refining. Okay. Again, like I said, while we're doing rehearsals, some holes might come out, and that's a chance for the PL to refine the plan. All this stuff works. So again, this is kind of the way I do it. This is the way I think, and this is the way I do it. You're meant to put some thought in before that Warno. Don't just rush and put out your Warno right away because that's what the TLP says to do. You need to put a little bit of thought into it. Okay. Now, you got to get the Warno out quickly, because you want your platoon to have the information, but don't go at the expense of not creating understanding. Again, 5 minutes to do a quick map recon and gain some understanding. This timeline, again, going to preparation, I already have the steps of my timeline written in. I probably already have written down everything I'm going to put on my timeline, and I just literally fill in the times. Okay? I'm not choosing, oh, do I want to include, occupying the ORP this time or not? No, I have it written down for ambush, what things I include in my timeline. I just write down 1600, 1445, 1325, blah, 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 all the way down. So really this takes let's say this takes 2 minutes. So once I receive the mission, I literally do 5 minutes of analysis on the map, 2 minutes of analysis on the timeline, compile it for 3 minutes. I'm giving my Warno out 10 minutes later. Total for 10 minutes later after receiving the mission. That is still quick enough that we're giving out a good Warno in a timely way, but I have some good information and I can really build a good Warno quickly that's going to get out the the stuff that I need to make sure that everyone's moving on where they need to move. Okay. Again, I know this is a little bit unique, but I wanted to break it down and show you kind of in these steps what I would be doing if I'm a light PL in the battlefield. Again, this is the way I employ it. When I was a PL in Afghanistan, when we were working on patrol bases, planning missions, I definitely used basically this method. I did the same thing in Ranger School and Advanced Camp when I was a cadet a long time ago. This stuff works and it's effective. Okay. The biggest deal is do not do it all yourself. As I talked here, delegate. Use your team to help you plan, and everyone will be better off for it, and you'll have the time to really build and brief an effective plan that you can really accomplish on the battlefield. All right. I hope this was helpful. Again, my name is Captain Justin De Leon, and Rangers lead the way.